Alright, so this is my second video, and I'm doing it on the fly once again. I know it's a stupid idea, but I like to let my thoughts run through my head in the moment, in a sense. So today, like yesterday, I want to talk about the pick and drafting, as pick and bans that's happening, especially in the Western scene, where I feel, as at least with some teams, there's a distinct lack of development since season 4. I can't tell at all that. I think it's unfathomable. Unfathomable. It's hard to believe that anybody is getting money for doing such a poor job at drafting and picking and banning, and there's also a distinct lack of what you call it, a distinct lack of adaptability in the draft. Basically, half the team I see, of the top teams even, you can tell they got a basic set of ideas of what they want to play, and if that doesn't work out, if they get banned out, or if they can see that, oh shit, this is not going to work, especially when you look at the opponent, what are you then going to do? You can't just pick some champions and expect the opponent not to be able to read you like a book. And at the moment, when I look at it, I can see many traces of tracks where you basically from start on can see what they want to pick. And I know that sometimes it's a great thing to do, especially if your team works well around it. But sometimes you have to look, what is the opponent doing? Are you just playing into their hand? Are they basically just planning on you to do this kind of drafting? And I know that there's certain composition that will always work wonders, but sometimes you have to figure out when the game is up, and when you need to be more unpredictable, you have to have more on the fly, like I do right now, kind of ability in the drafts, because many games are lost in the draft, especially in the LCS. And I think you give yourself such a narrow path of winning, and it's so hard sometimes to even to understand what or how they want to win a game. Certain teams, at least, like Fnatic, how do they want to win with this? Do they even consider when they're drafting? Yes, they're getting good lanes, but they're getting a kind of team that would work okay, and it would work okay against the other team. But how is it going to win? It's not a comp that's made to win and or have a certain features that makes it easier to win, which would work well in the meta or something. You pick more to not to lose instead of to win, and I think it's a little saddening to see sometime, and I really wants to see some development in this sense. That I just don't feel there's enough attention on how important the drafts are, but because everybody wants to see the flashy plays, and I know that it's great to see, but you have to set your team up to success. And when you're basically putting yourself down in a little hole, you have to dig yourself up from. You're just putting yourself at a disadvantage from the start on, and you're trying to climb an unpassable mountain. It's basically too hard to get through, and you would always have to make some kind of big play to be able to win. And I don't think that's the right mentality. When you're doing a draft, you don't necessarily want to outplay the opponent. You just want a way of winning, and you want to do it on equal terms, on fair ground, in a sense. You don't want to be behind all the game or do the stupid kind of scaling comps right now that is not working in the meta, where you're giving up so much ground in the early game and you're losing all the vision, which is so important in this meta. Having vision where you can set up things, especially in this kind of pick off meta where Ashe and Hecarim and Syra and even Cillian, LeBlanc, Jhin is so meta at the moment. You have to be able to have vision. You have to have early pressure. You don't want lanes that will fall behind each time you pick it. You don't want to be at a disadvantage from the start on, because then it's getting much more hard to win, to stall it. And I don't. It's just my own preference. I don't like having myself, at least when I watch my team Fnatic, having to have the feeling of, oh, if they want to get into this game, they need to do some kind of proactive play, which is so hard to do that kind of play if your comp is not meant to do those kind of plays at an early stage. That you need to scale, that you need some items, and you would basically put everything on the line if you did it like they did yesterday with the Jarvan. And I'm just a firm believer that you got to realize, how are we going to win? That's of course the main target. And then, is it realistic? Is it really? Is it realistic that we can take this scaling comp, give up all the map, and then win in the late game? Well, you then need to have a plan, and many times it doesn't seem like there's a clear plan. It seems more like the teams realize in the draft, oh shit, we need something to be able to stop the opponent. We need some scaling. But does it work? Does it synergize? Does it synergize with the team overall strengths? Does it mesh at all? Does it mesh the way the rest of the team, the majority of the team, wants to win? Or does it have distinct features that wants to win another way, which doesn't fit, fit with the rest of the team's winning ways, if you can say it that way. Sorry for my bad English, but yeah. I just think that there's a lot of ground to cover for the Western scene in this field, and I think it's going to be such a pivotal point at the big competition, Worlds and MSI. I know it's Finnish MSI, but it's so clear that there's much more cohesiveness in the way the Koreans drafts are working out. There's a clear-cut plan, and I don't like this kind of on the fly where you just try to salvage your own shit, because you either you go with one thing and you pull it out in a complete manner, and you do it fully, and you don't just make up some kind of shitty ass scale champion that is going to fit in with some non-scaling things. Early game stuff, and that is not going to work. I'm sorry. So basically the point of this little rant is just that I think the community, the LCS level of drafting, is actually not matching up at all. I think the mechanical things are getting into position where it's getting better and better for each year, but I haven't seen any development, any recognition of the necessity of getting some stronger drafts, getting equal drafts, setting the foundation. The drafts are the foundation of your own play, of how you're going to play, of how you're going to win, of how you want to play out the game. and I don't care about lane swaps and all such things. You have to take what is realistic. What can you play with? What can your players play with? What do they understand how they want to do? Do they understand if the plan A doesn't work? How are they going to do it? I don't like when it just seems like the team had made up the picks right in the moment and or have just chosen something they like to play. You have to have a complete plan when you're picking these teams, and I know they're putting a lot of efforts into it, but it just seems a little random at times. And I just think it's so clear that when teams, at least like H2K or CLG or in the NA server, got at least H2K had once a clear-cut plan of how they wanted to play the macro game. They took the right kind of champions like Sevilla and such and used it to perfection to do the kind of thing, to do the lane swap, to do the worst case scenarios. They had it planned out all the way. Even though the opponents knew it was coming, it was at least playing to the right kind of way that is going to work well with your team. And it's not unrealistic, and you know they can do it, as well as CLG. They were tremendous at MSI, even though they've fell into kind of a slump at the moment, but that's alright. You can just see from a draft what do they want to do, and I know it's pretty simple for an opponent to do, but it's also so simple for yourself to figure out what needs to happen. Where are we at the moment in the game? What needs to happen for us to pull this back together? How do we want to play? Is vision the important thing? Is lane swap an important thing? All these kind of things, pressure, setting up the team fights, all these kind of things. It's so much easier to figure out when you have a composition that is really easy to read, but also really easy to figure out how it's going to work and how you want it to work, instead of these kind of malfunctioned compositions which needs too many different things, which is really hard to pull off and is basically impossible to do. So that's the essence of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Take care.